Hey, CityCast listener, this holiday season, you could win a prize for doing simple things like ordering takeout from a local restaurant. It's all part of the DC Holiday Hunt from District Bridges. There are over $3,000 in exclusive prizes that you could win while supporting local businesses, completing fun missions, and crisscrossing DC, which, as you know, is one of CityCast listeners' favorite activities. And with no app required to play, it's easy and can be done at your own pace. Play now through January 5th for your chance to win. Just go to dcholidayhunt.org. Once again, that's dcholidayhunt.org. Happy playing. Today on CityCast DC, it's our neighborhood guide to Trinidad. Writer Austin Graff and local business owner Erica Koster are experts on the Northeast neighborhood, and they're here to tell you how to get the most out of your visit. They'll also tell us about the history of one of DC's last affordable neighborhoods. Today is Thursday, December 5th. I'm Michael Schaefer, and here's what DC is talking about. Hey, Austin.
Hi, Michael.
Hey, Erica.
Hi.
So for folks who don't know, tell us, where is Trinidad on the map within the diamond shape of DC?
Yeah, so Trinidad is just north of H Street, to the east of Gallaudet University, to the west of National Arboretum. So it's kind of like a smaller neighborhood that's cut off between a few major streets like Florida Avenue, Northeast, Bladensburg, West Virginia Avenue, and then in the very north, New York Avenue, or Route 50.
So for children of the 80s, like me, Trinidad was known as a place that was the epicenter of a lot of very rough stuff. Its reputation's changed a lot. Can you sort of tell us what's it known for now? Who's living there? What's the vibe?
Yeah, so I moved to DC in 2007, and I remember going to Trinidad a few times, and I heard stories of that. Like at some point decades ago, there were even like blockades, police blockades from block to block. And even when I moved east of the river to the neighborhood I lived in, I stayed in an Airbnb for a week before I moved into my house in Ward 8. And that house the Airbnb was in Trinidad. And all the people I met in Trinidad were like, wait, you're moving east of the river? That is too dangerous. And then when I moved east of the river, they all were like, wait, you came from an Airbnb in Trinidad? We would never go there. That is too dangerous of a neighborhood. So it definitely has just an interesting history. But today, Trinidad is mainly a residential neighborhood, but is getting more and more traffic just because Union Market and Gallaudet University are nearby. There's a lot of traffic on H Street that kind of go up to Trinidad, but some really interesting homes, some with deep history. There's a really good recreation center, and then some businesses are moving in.
All right, so Erica, you said you live on the hill, but you decided to open a business in Trinidad. Why so?
Well, I think it's an area of DC that still has somewhat reasonable commercial real estate prices, and I don't think that will last too long given Union Market exploding right next door, and everything kind of moving and changing there. So it felt like a good opportunity there. Where I'm located, also, it used to be a yoga studio. And ever since that yoga studio went out, this area has sort of been missing its space.
It was a yoga desert.
Yes, it was a yoga desert there. Some of the folks from that studio moved across to H Street and started a place called House Yoga that was then bought by Honest Soul that then went out of business. So yeah, there was a bit of a yoga desert there, and it seemed like a good opportunity.
All right, let's catch us up, Austin, on how we got here, right? So Trinidad of the 80s, epicenter at a time when DC was in drug wars. Now, what you're both describing is sort of kind of commercial gentrification as things like upscale pizza and yoga come in the neighborhood. How do we get from there to here, and where's it headed?
Trinidad, like many neighborhoods in DC, it's a 19th century neighborhood and was kind of passed around for different purposes. It used to be a country estate. And then the precursor to George Washington University was actually in Trinidad, as was a ballpark that the Washington Senators played at. And then a brick company kind of took over a lot of the area to get clay from the land. But then they didn't need the entire area, so they started to parcel off property. And it's kind of just people moved in. And it's changed demographic-wise over from then to most recent decades. It's been a primarily Black neighborhood, and just a strong sense of community there. And then as the city continues to evolve, there are more and more transplants moving to Trinidad, and also Native Washingtonians from other parts of the city moving to Trinidad. And so there's longtime Washingtonians, and then there's newcomers who are buying homes and moving in, and of course some developers as well. And then all the development around it also brings this new wave of people. So it is very much a neighborhood in transition because of that. And a lot of my personal friends who live there, who moved in the last 10, 15 years, they've seen the neighborhood change, and their neighbors who've been there, born and raised in their same homes, they are still trying to preserve a sense of community that Trinidad has always had. Even when the headlines have been high crime, don't go to Trinidad, there has been this sense of strong community and champions within Trinidad that have always stood up for safety and for community. And that's very much what Trinidad still is today. But now they're trying to figure out new ways to do that, trying to be inclusive of the newcomers, but also really respecting the old timers who just cherish Trinidad.
All right, so walk us through your perfect day in the neighborhood. What does it look like? Where do you go for activities?
I can't help but pump my own studio such that we have lots on the schedule and really something for everybody. And we're trying to really reflect the whole surrounding community and have everyone feel really welcome there. So I would start with a class at Breaker Yoga. I love the Trinidad Rec Center, and that playground there is super cool. It has a zip line. And so if your children are in tow at that point, I would head on over there and check that out. It's also just a lovely neighborhood to walk around. It's beautiful, mostly Wardman style houses. Folks are often out on their porches. So you might just take a walk after that and wander around through the streets and explore and see parts of DC you've probably never seen before.
There's a top-rated pizzeria out of someone's row house, for example, or even like what Erica is doing in Trinidad.
What's that?
It's called June Pizza. And it's, in my opinion, it's one of among the best pizza in the city. And it's a husband and wife who were in the food industry, and sadly COVID hit and they were looking for work, and they decided to make their own pizza out of their kitchen oven and sell it to neighbors, and people fell in love with it. So now it's gotten some media as of the last few years, and now there's kind of a long line to get in. But essentially you sign up for this email and you go and pick up the pizza from their literal front porch, often given to you by their children. And it is amazing pizza with a texture of crust I've yet to experience anywhere else in the city.
That's a little lacking, I think, in Trinidad at the moment. I like Sicilian pizza. I hadn't heard of June Pizza, but I like Sicilian pizza. It's very quick. It's consistent, really feed the people kind of food. Or you might check out Mother Rucker's Subs is a good grab and go option. Maybe grabbing that and heading back to a park to eat it.
Let's be real, lawsuits are not fun. But with Christopher Nace and the trial lawyers at Paulson and Nace, at least they're a little easier. Paulson and Nace is a DC law firm in every sense of the word. It was founded here in 1979. Partner Chris Nace is a local who cares deeply about the DC community, even serving on the board of the local branch of the Living Classrooms Foundation in his free time. Nace and his associates, Samantha Peters, John Reese, and Maya Perry, handle medical malpractice, wrongful death, and other complex injury cases. And they don't just settle every case. They'll go to court. They'll fight for you. Paulson and Nace has even been recognized as one of Best Lawyers' best law firms. So if you have been hurt or lost a loved one because of someone else's mistake or negligence, call Paulson and Nace for a no-obligation consultation. Visit www.paulsonandnace.com or call 202-463-1999.
Today's show is sponsored by BetterHelp. If you're a magic maker like me, the person in your crew responsible for the parties and the menus and keeping the whole squad on theme and on time, the holidays can be so much fun, but they can also kind of run you down. Therapy can be a great way to bring yourself some comfort. Maybe you want to learn how to set some boundaries with your friends and family this time of year, or maybe you're working on coping skills for when you get overwhelmed. Therapy can empower you to be the best version of yourself in any situation. If you're thinking of making a change, BetterHelp wants to be there for you. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/CityCast today to get 10% off your first month. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/CityCast.
The world comes to Washington, D.C. this December. Join us for the 11th Annual Winter National Embassy Showcase at the Ronald Reagan Building and International Trade Center on December 5th. Presented by World Trade Center, Washington, D.C., Winter National offers a one-of-a-kind experience featuring representatives from over 60 embassies, promoting their countries through vibrant and interactive displays of visual art, food, and handcrafts, as well as travel, tourism, and trade. Attendees can shop the marketplace for artisanal goods like jewelry and hats, or ceramics and hand-carved wood sculptures, sample cultural delicacies, and explore countries' exhibits featuring arts and culture, commodities, and diaspora communities in traditional dress. Don't miss this free, lively midday celebration. Register at rrbitc.com/winternational.
You guys spend a lot of your time there. What would you want there? Like if you were king, what would you order in terms of a service or good amenity?
Yeah, I think right next to me, there's an open spot that I think used to be some sort of hair place or spa type thing. Would be very cool to have there. I would love to see a bakery somewhere, even on H Street, which is not that far away. There's not a whole lot in terms of bakery, baked goods. I would love any kind of sort of quality ice cream shop. We don't have any of that anywhere nearby.
And Michael, it is interesting to see kind of more and more businesses either hoping to open up in Trinidad. And I recently actually was talking to a woman who owns a bakery that just opened in Trinidad called Blossom Bakery and Cafe. And it's actually a nonprofit bakery with the whole goal of trying to kind of help fill the void of food deserts in Washington, D.C. It's located right in Trinidad within this old strip mall. It used to be where a place called Sharks was, which was kind of a fast food restaurant in the neighborhood. And they sell fresh pastries most mornings. And then they also have coffee, which is very much needed in the neighborhood. And they brew what's called Black Nerd Coffee, which is a Black-owned roastery out in Vienna, Virginia. They brew their coffee. So that's very much a welcome guest or business within Trinidad. There's been a few other coffee shops that have opened and then kind of abruptly closed after just a few months. But I'm hoping that Blossom Bakery and Cafe will stay out for a while, especially because it's woman-owned, it's very missional. And I've had their baked goods, especially their breakfast biscuit sandwich, and it is very good.
Hey, will you talk a little bit about the role of Gallaudet in the neighborhood? Because living next to a university campus is sort of a great amenity for a lot of people, not because you're going to like take classes and stuff, but because it has open space, playing fields, et cetera. And if you have a business, it has, students who might want to come spend money. And I know Gallaudet is, it's different than American University or Georgetown or something like that. But how much of an amenity is it for the neighborhood and how much of a presence is that community within the neighborhood?
I mean, it is a big part of our mission that we're trying to incorporate the deaf community more into what we're doing. I do see it as a little bit of a disconnect. It sort of seems like two communities next to each other. And of course, they are a part of it as well. I think sometimes folks are very intimidated when you don't speak the same language. There's a big barrier there. And I think that some of the businesses have started to sort of break down some of those barriers. Masseria is not exactly in Trinidad, but it's deaf owned and deaf run, as is the Starbucks on H. And, I can see that as more businesses come into the community in Trinidad, that will be something that hopefully everyone sort of takes into account and begins to incorporate both communities coming together.
All right, so sell us on the neighborhood. Of all the neighborhoods in D.C., why should we visit this one? Why should we move to this one?
Honestly, I think because of the sense of community is one of the strongest selling points for Trinidad. One, you really get to know people who are not only native to Washington, D.C., but really love and want to shepherd this city. And again, just a lot of activists have been residents of Trinidad, not just for their local neighborhood, but also for the city as a whole. And so if you move there, you will probably get to know your block quite well. There's a lot of block events and neighborhood events and really a strong sense of looking out for each other, which if you think about it, is very, especially as the city changes with more transplants coming in, it's so easy for people who are from here to kind of not be welcoming. And I think Trinidad, from my friends' experiences who live there, from me spending a lot of time there, a lot of people who are native to Trinidad have been just so humble in that approach and so welcoming to just really greet newcomers. So I think this, if you want a strong sense of community, move to Trinidad. But then also it is so central, and there's a lot of great, interesting things about it. Like the rec center is a great place to go for green space. There is one of the first racially integrated cemeteries in the city, right there with a beautiful view of Washington, D.C. They also have just a lot of history that people don't know about. Like the couple that was involved with the Loving versus Virginia Supreme Court, like that case that made interracial marriages in the United States legal. When they were going to the Supreme Court, they stayed in a house in Trinidad. And so there's just a lot of deep history that a lot of neighbors know, but a lot of larger people in other neighborhoods don't really realize about Trinidad.
I definitely think it's a place where you go and folks are sitting out on their porch and they're saying hello. Like Austin said, there's tons of history there, but there's also a very welcoming feel to the neighborhood.
Yeah. And I will also add, like, I love to wander in DC, and there's some beautiful murals down many different alleys in Trinidad. So if you like to explore, there's a lot of things to find. And it kind of feels like a treasure hunt where you go down alleys and you see interesting historic blends of architecture, and then you stumble upon a beautiful mural from local artists.
What's the best public transit to get there?
It's not metro accessible, unfortunately, but the streetcar runs down Bladensburg for free, and then I think it's the D6 bus.
Yeah, honestly, the closest metro would be probably Noma, but that's kind of a trek. So the streetcar is really the best option, which is free still for anyone.
Erica, Austin, thank you guys for being here. And that's all for today here on CityCast DC. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.